Okay, so welcome back. The installation is done, and we can see that we have installed Django successfully. So we're going to create our Django project, and we're going to use the Django command, the Django admin command. Yeah, start project. So what do we name the project? Okay, let's name it environment variables as well. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Django has created the project, environment variables. Yeah, okay. So we'll have to rename, or I actually prefer renaming the root folder housing the Django project, so I can actually because normally when you run the Django start project, it creates the project inside the folder, and it names the project, and it names the folder after the project. So well, I just like separating it for clarity's sake. Okay, so I'm naming it SRC or SUS, depending on whichever works for you. But I find SRC to be short and convenient. Okay, so I'll cd into this folder, and I'll try to create a Django project. Django startup. Okay, let's name this Django env var, or this is too long. All right, let me just keep it simple. Django env. Okay, so yeah, so we can see the app we created here. So without any further ado, we'll have to go to VS Code and open up our folder. Sorry, I meant to open a new folder. Desktop, env files, open. Okay, and we are in. So what we're looking to do is go to the settings file and look for the secret key. It should be up here. Okay, so we're going to save this in an environment variable in our virtual environment, and we're going to load it into the data. We're going to import it back into the data. If we can remember about what environment variables are, they said they are set outside of the program, and then they are also imported back into the program via functionalities built in. So someone has done something under the hood for us not to stress ourselves in wondering how they are importing the secret key or any other environment variable we might be saving in our env file or our activate file, depending on which you're using. So so let's quickly locate okay, let me set an interpreter for this. Okay, let's hold on for a sec. So what happens? Okay, so I'm going to select my virtual environment so that VS Code can actually know where I'm saving all my dependencies and requirements and all. Okay, and this so the next step is to go to the virtual environment folder and save our environment variables there and import them back into the program. Okay. Okay, so this is where my virtual environment folders are. All right. If you're using virtual environment apart from ppenv, then your virtual environment should be somewhere in your project directory. So this is what we're looking for, and then we'll enter into the bin folder, and then we're looking for the activate file. So this is where we're going to save our environment variables, in this file. And we're saving this here because whenever we launch our Django project and we want to start coding, we need to activate our virtual environment. And while we're activating the virtual environment, automatically our variables are going to be plugged in into our Django project, and they get to run seamlessly. So I'm going to demonstrate this to us, and I'm going to set up the environment variables here now, and I'm going to run the project without exiting from my current virtual environment and reactivating it, and we're going to see that it's going to throw an error until we reactivate the virtual environment again. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to scroll to the very last line of code here and include a couple of spaces, and then we use export. Okay, and then we're going to get the secret key and plug in the value in the virtual environment. Okay, so be mindful of the spaces. Ensure that you're not leaving spaces around the value you're saving, the name and the value of the environment variables you're saving, so you need to bring them close. Okay, let's also let's save our database credentials. Okay, there are no database credentials here, but you can actually save your database credentials in fact, it's best practice to save your database credentials in your .env file or the activate file. So this is because you might be in the team of 5 developers or more than that, and everybody is working on the same project at the same time. So everybody won't have the same settings in their development. For instance, I might decide to use Postgres for my database, and my credentials will be different from the other developer that is working and pushing his code at the same time. So imagine every time I push my code with my own credentials to GitHub and this guy downloads and installs, he's always going to get an error because his system's environment doesn't understand the credentials I'm passing there because they are mine and not his. So it won't work. It will definitely throw an error. But if I actually save my credentials in a virtual environment, in an env file, and just import it, whenever this guy pulls my code or downloads it from GitHub and runs it on his local machine, it's going to work seamlessly because what the system does is it plugs in his own credentials into the places where the virtual environment, where the environment variables are being called. Okay, so without any further ado, let's also set this debug value here, which is a boolean, and in our activate file as well. Okay, so we're going to use exports. Okay, and mind the export should be in lowercase. And I'll paste and I'll get rid of extra spaces. Okay, so when I'm done, I hit Command S or Control S to save. If you're on a Windows or any other machine that is not a Mac, you use Control S to save. Okay, so now I'll close this and I'll go back to VS Code, and I'm going to import OS. Now I'm going to change the value of this here. os.getEnv, and I'm going to pass the name of the value we are getting from the OS. So what we're doing here is telling Django to go and look for the name secret key and plug in the value you get into this. Alright, so that's just basically what we're doing. And I'm going to change this as well to os.get.env. This is debug. Okay, so now I'm going to save and run my Django server. Okay, so I don't get to switch tabs a lot. Okay, now so I'm going to try and run my Django server with the command okay. Alright, so it's throwing an error. You must set settings that allowed if the bug is false. Alright, so because we haven't reactivated our virtual environment, it hasn't activated and seeded our environment variables into our Django application. So I'm going to deactivate my virtual environment and reactivate it again. So okay, okay, it has activated. Okay, sorry about that. I should cd into the source folder because that's where our Django project is, and typing any other command in any directory that isn't there will definitely throw an error. Okay, so we can see our Django project is all fired up and it's running, and we can see that even if we get to push this code to GitHub, anybody looking at our projects, if we have made it a public repo, will come and they won't have access to our secret key. And even when we push our project to production, nobody can exploit the project to get any sensitive data we have stored away. All right. Okay, so let's open this up in a browser and see what we'll have. Okay. Ta-da! Okay, so our Django project is up and running, and that is that for environment variables. So we're going to be moving over to the next order of the day, which is templating in Django. Okay, so here Django as a web framework needs a convenient way to generate HTML dynamically, and the most common approach relies on templates. A template contains the static parts of the desired HTML output, as well as some special syntax describing how dynamic contexts will be inserted. And then we also told that the Django project can be configured with one or several template engines, which could be the Django templating engine or Ginger. Alright, so one of the benefits of templating or Django template language is that it helps us do so much. It helps us do a lot. It reduces the work for us. It helps reduce redundancy. It helps reduce repetition as well. Okay, so with the presence of Django templating, Django templating or templating in Django or Django template language, there are ways we can actually get to use multiple. We get to import a single component on multiple templates. All right, so let's say we have a project that has a footer and a header, and this project has about 10 pages, for instance. So now instead of hard coding this navbar and footer on those 10 pages, you can actually write the templates for the header and footer in a separate file and import them in those 10 files. So it helps reduce the line of code you write, and that is like one of the best and sweetest features Django has. Okay, so Ginger is a web templating engine, and it's pretty common with Python programming language for the web. The Ginger templates allows customization of tags, filters, tests, and globals according to Ginger's official documentation, which could be found in the URL in the slide. And Also, according to Django's official documentation, the Ginger template was actually coined after Django template language. The Django template language was what inspired Ginger. And so now we're being told that Django template revolves around four constructs, which are variables, tags, filters, and comments. And we are also going to look at how these four constructs come to play in our Django project and how we can actually get to use them when we're working on Django and when we're working on the template in Django. Okay, so in the slide we're also going to see the syntaxes or representation of these four constructs and how we can see them. So a variable here outputs a value from the context passed in the views.py file. We're going to see this in our Django application. That's where the views.py file is, and this is how you insert variables in Django templates. So you make use of curly braces, double curly braces, and you'll be able to pass in a variable from the views.py into your Django template. And this variable could be a data from the database, or it could just be a variable of your choice that you just want to pass in there. And then we also have tags, and we have been told that tags provide arbitrary logic in rendering process. So for instance, HTML is a markup language. It's not a programming language, and you can't do stuff like conditionals and loops in HTML. But with the help of Django templates, Django template language, you can be able to write blocks of logic like conditionals and loops in your HTML file, and they'll get to run perfectly well. Because once Django encounters a tag like this, a curly brace and a percentage enclosing a command, it actually runs the command with respect to Python programming language. And the next here is filters. So we've been told that filters transforms the values of variables and tag arguments. So let's say we have a variable, a name we're getting from the database, and we actually want to make the name all caps or something like that. So this is how you get to do it. The Django documentation actually is a pretty concise go-to for this, but we'll be demonstrating how all this works. And then the last but not the least construct here is the comment. So we can, apart from the default HTML comment tags, you can also pass in comments, in your Django templates. So after this, we're going to work on a mini project to demonstrate all what we have just done here and just how to configure our Django application to use templates. Okay, alright, so we're going back to our Django templates, our Django app, sorry, and we're going to create okay, let me delete this app. I don't think I need it. Okay, so let me create a new app that has a similar name to what we're doing to avoid confusion. I'm going to name this Django admin startup. Django template. Okay, so we have Django template as a folder here now with our default files in it for us to write our custom code. Okay, so another thing I'm going to do is to create another directory called template, and I'm going to create this in the src folder. So I'm going to do this, new folder, and then I'm going to name it templates. So this is the folder that will be housing all our static HTML pages. And after this, next thing I'm going to do is to tell Django that, hey, look, we're going to be using templates here, and this is where you're going to find them. So we're going to go under templates. You can see templates here. And we can see DIRs, this stands for directories. So you should impute the directories housing your Django templates. So number one is okay. Okay, and then we also have to, just in case we have an additional directory, so Django just calls everything up for us and runs it. Okay, so I think this should sort it out. Alright, let's go on to create let's create a custom view. Okay, let's create a custom view for this. Okay, def home view. Okay, alright, but before this we actually need to create a template for Django to run. So I'm going to create a file, and I'm going to name the file home.html. okay, so these are just dummy texts, for us to just see what we're doing and see how we can actually get to view this template on the browser. Okay, so we're going to write a view for it. So I'm sure we all know that Django is built after the MVT architecture, which is models, views, and then the template. So we have a template now. We have to create a matching view for it, so that when a request hits the URL, we're going to log into the browser, it hits the view, and then the view serves the template to the client or the user or whoever it is that is behind the browser and trying to access the page. Okay, so here I'm just going to do something pretty basic, and I'm going to do return render requests home.html. okay, and we're going to need to create a urls.py file here. Okay, we're going to import Django path. Okay, so we're going to give the name of our URL. We're just going to call it home. Okay, no, path. So we're going to call this home, and then we're also going to import the view. So I'm going to do from the current directory import views. Okay, now I have views dot home view, and I can actually name this let me see, home view. Okay, so the next here is to import this URL here in our project URL, so that Django knows that okay, we have an app that has URLs in it, and we should also include the URL. So I just imported include from Django.urls here, and I'm going to add the URLs we have in our Django template app here. Include Django templates .urls. Okay. Okay. I think we're pretty solid. Okay, so now I'm going to fire up our Django server once more. Okay, so let's try to access the home template we just created. Okay, so Django is serving our template, and we can see what we have in the templates file here. So this is what we have in the home templates. We have some dummy text, and okay, let me just add a couple of other text. Okay, and save, and then refresh. Okay, so we can see that the second text is here. So now we're going to jump into our Django tags and how we can pass stuff like context and variables from the backend to our templates and serve them in our template file. Okay, so let's say I have a variable named food, and this is called bread. Okay, so I'm going to pass this here as a dictionary using this as a keyword, or as a key, sorry, not a keyword, and then passing the variable itself here as the value. Then we're going to go to our template to import this value we just created here. So we're going to I just ate. Okay, this is food. Okay, so let's go on and refresh and see what we have. Okay, so hi, I just ate bread this morning, and this is what we have here. So we just passed in the variable here. So the variable we're passing in can be any value, can just be a static value here, it can be a dynamic value from the database. Okay, so let's say for instance we want to replicate what Facebook has when you log in every time, and you get to see your name, you get to see stuff like hello, welcome, so and so. It gets to remember your name and bring all the stuff. So if some of us have been wondering how they do it, so this is just how they do it. So they pass those values from the back to the front, and if it's a Django app, let's say for instance Instagram, yeah, so definitely there is a 90% chance that there are Django template tags in Instagram codes that get to pass some variables from the back end to the front end in the Django app. So here we just passed in the context, and The next thing we'll have to do is, okay, let me also show us how we can do that from the database as well. So I'll just have to turn off my server and just create just some stuff in the model, just something simple. So let's say we have we try to build a bookstore, and we're going to model the bookstore. So we have bookstore model. Okay, so I'm setting this so that Django doesn't go ahead set it for me automatically and just do what it likes. Okay, so let's say in the bookstore we'll have book title, and we have book author, and we have year published. Okay, models Chatfield, max length, okay, let's say 50. So let's say 20. Okay, actually let's leave this to 20 as well. Let's not clog up let's not fill up our database. Let's not take up so much space. Okay, so the year published, I think I'll just set it as a Chatfield as well, because this is just an example. Let's see, 4. Okay, so now we're done. Let's import this in the admin.py file, so we can be able to see this from the Django admin page when we are trying to populate data. Okay. So I'm using list display to display the fields I would like to view in the Django admin panel when I run my server. So I would like to see pretty much everything here. So I'll just include all of them: book title, book author, and year published. Okay. So book title, book author, and year published. Okay, so I'm going to make migrations. So this is me telling Django that, okay, there are some things I would like to add in the database. Prepare yourself to add this stuff. Okay, no changes detected. That's strange. That's strange. Okay, so let me run the migrate command and see what happens. Okay, so it has run all our migrations for us. Um, okay, okay. Hmm. Okay, yeah, so it hasn't run the migrations in our Django template because we haven't added it to the settings.py file. So every time you create a Django project, please ensure to add them to the installed app so that Django knows that this application exists and it gets to run, integrate it into the system and run stuff for it. So I'm going to run migrations again. Okay, so now we can see that it now knows that we have models called bookstore. So next we're going to do is to run the migrate to create the columns in the database. Okay, all right, so I think all that is done. Let me fire up the server. Oh, okay, let me create a super user. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry, that was wrong command. Okay, so we can see that the red errors we were having about 18 migrations have all disappeared. Okay, so we're going to go to Django admin. Let's just going to change this. And this actually came from, so we are able to access that URL because of this here. It has been included. It comes default. Whenever you create a Django project, it comes with the admin panel or admin part of it um, built in. Okay. Okay, so now I'm logged in. Alright, but I haven't seen our bookstore table here. So I'll have to go and add it in the admin. And I'm going to do that by doing this. So I'm going to register the site with admin the site register, and then the name of our model and the name of our class in the admin.py file. Okay, so it will refresh, so we can now see bookstore. Alright, so let's just populate this and add, let's see, things fall apart. Okay, I don't know when he published this, but let me just say 1945 for instance. Okay. Okay. So I think I'll have to end this tutorial here to continue again so we don't get bored.